Fascist rising West Australia. By 2032, a conspiracy theory emerges claiming that Western Australia has secretly declared independence and established a totalitarian regime under the guise of environmental protection. The theory suggests that mining billionaires, in partnership with Chinese interests, orchestrated a controlled economic collapse to justify martial law across the state. Believers point to the construction of massive detention facilities disguised as carbon capture plants along the coast. Operation Iron Curtain allegedly begins in 2031 when Western Australia closes its borders permanently, claiming a new variant of climate change requires total isolation. The state government announces that only essential workers with special permits can enter or leave, effectively cutting off 2.6 million residents from the rest of Australia. The conspiracy claims that Gina Rinehart's mining empire forms the backbone of the new regime, using lithium extraction as cover for building underground bunkers and surveillance networks. Social credit systems supposedly track every citizen's carbon footprint, with dissidents sent to remote mining camps in the Pilbara region. Internet restrictions begin with the creation of WestNet, a closed network that only allows access to approved state content. The theory suggests that families attempting to communicate with relatives outside Western Australia receive automated responses generated by artificial intelligence. By 2034, believers claim the regime begins exporting rare earth minerals to fund expansion into South Australia, using climate emergency powers to justify territorial acquisition. The conspiracy alleges that other Australian states remain silent due to economic dependence on Western Australian resources. Tigray government tests. By 2035, leaked documents will allegedly reveal that multiple world governments established covert testing facilities in the Tigray region of Ethiopia following the 2020 to 2022 conflict. These facilities supposedly operate under the cover of humanitarian reconstruction efforts. The conspiracy claims that the region's isolated geography and displaced population create ideal conditions for conducting experiments that would be impossible elsewhere. Documents purportedly describe 3 primary testing programs running simultaneously. Operation Desert Bloom involves agricultural modification trials where researchers allegedly test genetically altered crops designed to grow in extreme conditions. The conspiracy suggests these crops contain tracking nanobots that monitor consumption patterns and biological responses across entire communities. The second program, codenamed Altitude Advantage, supposedly uses the region's elevation of 8,000 feet above sea level to test performance enhancement technologies on local populations without their knowledge. Conspiracy theorists claim this explains unusual athletic achievements emerging from the area in the late 2030s. Most concerning to believers is the Neural Mapping Initiative, which allegedly uses electromagnetic frequency towers disguised as communication infrastructure to map brain activity patterns across large populations. The conspiracy states that data collected feeds into artificial intelligence systems designed to predict and influence human behavior on a massive scale. Supporters of this theory point to the unusually rapid infrastructure development in the region compared to other post-conflict areas in Ethiopia. They claim that international aid organizations serve as fronts for intelligence agencies from 7 different countries. The conspiracy predicts that whistleblower testimony will emerge in 2038, revealing decades of coordinated human experimentation conducted under the guise of humanitarian assistance. Underwater cables wireless. By 2032, the Global Internet Infrastructure Council will announce Project Neptune's Trident, a complete replacement of all transoceanic fiber optic cables with quantum-entangled communication nodes. The official reasoning centers on cable vulnerability to ship anchors, submarine interference, and the rising costs of deep-sea maintenance. The current internet backbone relies on over 400 underwater cables spanning 1.3 million kilometers of ocean floor. These cables carry 99% of international data traffic, making them critical infrastructure targets. Multiple cable cuts in recent years, particularly in the Red Sea and Baltic regions, have exposed the fragility of this system. The wireless replacement technology utilizes underwater quantum transmitters positioned every 50 to 75 kilometers along existing cable routes. These devices communicate through quantum entanglement rather than physical fiber, eliminating the need for continuous cable infrastructure while maintaining data speeds exceeding current capabilities. However, leaked documents from Northrop Grumman's Advanced Communications Division reveal the true purpose behind the wireless transition. The removal of physical cables prevents foreign intelligence agencies from conducting submarine cable tapping operations, a practice that has occurred since the Cold War era. Nations can no longer access internet traffic by physically splicing into underwater infrastructure. The wireless nodes also enable real-time traffic manipulation and selective data blocking on a per-country basis. Unlike cables that require physical access to monitor, the quantum nodes can be remotely programmed to filter specific types of information based on content analysis algorithms. Implementation begins with the decommissioning of the Transatlantic Cable 1 in late 2031, followed by systematic replacement of all major international routes by 2035. The old cables remain on the ocean floor indefinitely, serving as decoys for foreign surveillance operations that continue attempting to tap non-functional infrastructure. Fatal dreams for the poor. By the early 2030s, sleep researchers will have perfected neural interface technology capable of monitoring and manipulating dream content in real time. What begins as therapeutic treatment for nightmares and post-traumatic stress disorder quickly evolves into something far more sinister. The conspiracy centers around Operation Sandman, a classified program jointly operated by major pharmaceutical corporations and government agencies. Using data harvested from mandatory sleep tracking applications installed on all smartphones after 2032, the program identifies individuals earning below $40,000 annually. These targeted individuals receive subtle electromagnetic pulses through their devices during REM sleep phases. The pulses alter brainwave patterns, ensuring their dreams consistently feature themes of failure, inadequacy, and insurmountable obstacles. More disturbing, the dreams are designed to trigger stress responses so severe they cause measurable physical deterioration over time. The technology works by exploiting the brain's natural connection between dream content and hormone production. Dreams of poverty and hopelessness flood the system with cortisol while suppressing dopamine and serotonin production. Within 18 months of exposure, subjects exhibit decreased cognitive function, weakened immune systems, and shortened lifespans. The program serves dual purposes. First, it prevents upward economic mobility by crushing ambition at the subconscious level. Second, it reduces healthcare and social security costs by accelerating natural mortality rates among lower-income populations. Leaked documents from 2038 reveal that test subjects in Detroit and Cleveland experienced average lifespan reductions of 12 to 15 years compared to control groups. The conspiracy theorists who expose this claim, the program expanded globally by 2040, with over 2 billion people affected. The most chilling aspect involves dream content harvesting, where positive dreams from wealthy individuals are recorded and sold to corporations for advertising research, while nightmares from the poor are weaponized and redistributed to maintain the cycle. Contagious dementia virus crafted so we'd forget. The theory emerged in the late 2030s, following a series of unexplained memory disorders affecting populations worldwide. Research whistleblowers claimed that an engineered pathogen was deliberately released to cause selective amnesia in target demographics. The virus, allegedly developed through a joint operation between pharmaceutical giants and intelligence agencies, would target specific neural pathways responsible for long-term memory formation. The pathogen reportedly works by attacking hippocampal neurons while leaving other brain functions intact. Victims experience gradual memory loss, beginning with recent events before progressing to earlier memories. Unlike natural dementia, the engineered variant follows predictable patterns, systematically erasing knowledge of specific time periods or topics. Documents surfaced in 2041 suggesting the virus was field-tested in retirement communities during the 2020s under the guise of studying natural cognitive decline. The selection criteria allegedly focused on individuals who witnessed classified military operations, environmental disasters, or corporate malfeasance during their lifetimes. The operation gained traction when researchers noticed that affected populations consistently forgot the same categories of information. Government surveillance programs, pharmaceutical trial cover-ups, and climate engineering projects were among the most commonly erased memories. Meanwhile, subjects retained personal relationships, basic skills, and non-threatening historical knowledge. Intelligence sources indicate the pathogen spreads through respiratory droplets, but remains dormant until activated by specific electromagnetic frequencies broadcast through cellular networks. The activation signal supposedly targets individuals based on their digital footprints and social media activity patterns. By 2045, entire communities reported identical gaps in their collective memory, spanning decades of local industrial accidents and political scandals. Medical professionals who attempted to document these patterns found their own research mysteriously corrupted, or their findings dismissed by institutional review boards. The virus allegedly continues evolving to target new memory categories as directed by its creators, ensuring inconvenient truths remain permanently buried in the minds of those who once knew them. Hidden catacombs under London. Beneath the familiar network of London Underground tunnels lies a far more extensive system that transport authorities have kept classified since 1943. These catacombs, stretching over 200 kilometers through chalk and clay deposits, were initially discovered during Blitz excavations, but immediately sealed by government order. Archaeological evidence suggests the tunnels predate Roman occupation by several centuries. Carbon dating performed in secret government facilities places construction around 300 BCE, making them older than the famous Paris catacombs by over 400 years. The chambers contain an estimated 12,000 skeletal remains, arranged in precise geometric patterns that correspond to celestial alignments during winter solstice periods. By 2028, leaked Transport for London documents will reveal that every major tube line expansion since the 1960s has been deliberately rerouted to avoid these burial chambers. Construction crews who accidentally breached catacomb walls during the Central Line extension were relocated to Scotland and signed lifetime non-disclosure agreements. The most significant discovery will emerge in 2031, when urban explorers access the network through abandoned Victorian sewage outlets near Rotherhithe. Their footage will show carved stone doorways leading to chambers filled with bronze artifacts and inscribed tablets. Government archaeologists have reportedly identified the remains as belonging to a pre-Celtic civilization that practiced advanced astronomical observation. The tablet inscriptions, when translated, describe seasonal flooding patterns of the Thames with mathematical precision that exceeds current meteorological models. By 2035, persistent Freedom of Information requests will force partial declassification of what officials term the London Ossuary Project. The released documents will confirm that selected chambers have been maintained as secure storage for sensitive historical artifacts deemed too controversial for public museums. Where are the aliens on TOI 700E? In January 2022, NASA announced the discovery of TOI 700E, an Earth-sized planet located 95 light-years away in the habitable zone of its red dwarf star. The planet joins 3 other worlds in what astronomers call a perfect system for supporting life. By 2027, conspiracy theorists claim that deep space monitoring stations begin detecting artificial radio signatures from the TOI 700 system. These signals allegedly show mathematical patterns too complex for natural phenomena, suggesting an advanced civilization actively broadcasting across interstellar space. The conspiracy centers around what believers call Operation Silent Neighbor. Government documents supposedly leaked in 2029 reveal that multiple space agencies have been tracking these transmissions for over 2 years, without public disclosure. The signals reportedly contain what cryptographers describe as nested encryption layers, indicating a species with computational abilities far exceeding our current technology. What makes this theory particularly compelling to its supporters is the sudden radio silence that allegedly begins in 2030. After years of consistent transmissions, all artificial signals from TOI 700E completely cease within a 3-month period. Conspiracy theorists claim this indicates either the civilization destroyed itself, was destroyed by an outside force, or most ominously, stopped broadcasting because they detected our presence. The theory suggests that by 2032, world governments will be forced to reveal limited details about the TOI 700 contact after too many amateur radio operators begin independently detecting residual signals. However, believers insist the full truth about why the aliens went silent will remain classified indefinitely, as it supposedly reveals humanity's status as a monitored species rather than an undiscovered one. 2034 Ice Age caused by Sun Disappearance. According to documents leaked from the Solar Monitoring Initiative, a coordinated blackout of our star will occur between March and September of 2034, triggering an artificial ice age lasting approximately 18 months. The operation allegedly involves a network of orbital reflector satellites deployed during the 2020s under the guise of space debris cleanup missions. These satellites, positioned at Lagrange point 1 between Earth and the Sun, can be synchronized to create a partial solar eclipse effect covering up to 60% of incoming solar radiation. The conspiracy centers on Project Dim Switch, supposedly developed by a coalition of renewable energy corporations, seeking to demonstrate the catastrophic effects of reduced solar input. By artificially creating ice age conditions, these entities plan to secure trillions in climate emergency funding while positioning themselves as humanity's salvation through expanded solar infrastructure. Supporting evidence includes the mysterious closure of 12 solar observatories worldwide in 2029, officially attributed to equipment upgrades, but coinciding with the installation of advanced atmospheric monitoring systems. Weather modification patents filed by aerospace contractors between 2031 and 2033 describe methods for controlled solar obstruction for climate research purposes. The timeline suggests initial dimming will begin in early 2034, with surface temperatures dropping by 8 to 12 degrees Celsius within the first 90 days. Agricultural collapse and supply chain disruption will follow, creating the economic crisis necessary to implement the new Solar Accord, a global energy framework that centralizes power distribution under corporate oversight. Critics of this theory point to the technical impossibility of maintaining synchronized satellite positioning at such scale, though believers counter that breakthrough propulsion technology recovered from crashed aerial phenomena makes the operation feasible. Simpsons predicted the past. The long-running animated series has become notorious for seemingly predicting future events, from Donald Trump's presidency to smartwatches. However, classified documents allegedly leaked in 2037 reveal a far stranger truth. The show didn't predict the future at all. It predicted the past. According to these documents, writers Matt Groening and his team gained access to temporal viewing technology developed by a joint CIA and Disney operation called Project Yellow Pages. This experimental device, reportedly constructed in underground facilities beneath Burbank, allowed operators to observe historical events as they unfolded in real time. The technology allegedly works by exploiting quantum entanglement principles discovered during the Manhattan Project, but suppressed until the 1980s. By creating synchronized particle pairs across different temporal coordinates, observers can witness past events without direct interference. The device requires massive amounts of energy, which explains Disney's sudden interest in acquiring multiple power companies during the early 1990s. What appeared to be predictions of future events were actually depictions of past occurrences that hadn't yet been publicly documented or discovered. Episodes showing advanced technology, political developments, and cultural shifts were based on historical surveillance of events that had already transpired in hidden timelines or classified government operations. The leaked documents suggest that by 2042, mainstream historians will discover that many major 20th and 21st century events followed patterns established in much earlier time periods. The Simpsons writing team, with access to this temporal intelligence, simply animated what they observed from these previous cycles. The operation allegedly ended in 2008 when the viewing device malfunctioned during the financial crisis, explaining why the show's later seasons contained fewer accurate predictions. Government technicians spent the next 15 years attempting repairs before finally abandoning the project in 2023. Conspiracy researchers claim this explains why certain Simpsons episodes feel eerily specific about events that wouldn't occur for decades. They weren't making educated guesses about the future. They were documenting the past that most of humanity had never witnessed. Prison colonies exploitation. The practice of shipping unwanted populations to remote locations for forced labor dates back centuries, with Australia serving as Britain's primary dumping ground from 1788 to 1868. What most fail to recognize is that this system never truly ended. It simply evolved. By 2025, private correctional corporations had perfected the art of generating profit from human captivity, with inmates producing goods at wages ranging from 20 cents to $1 per hour. The real conspiracy begins with classified documents from SpaceX and Blue Origin, leaked in 2027, revealing joint venture proposals titled Operation Distant Shores. These documents outline plans to establish the first off-world correctional facilities on Mars by 2035, marketed publicly as rehabilitation centers for violent offenders. The true purpose involves mining rare earth elements using prisoner labor, with sentences automatically extended based on production quotas rather than rehabilitation progress. The Lunar Correctional Initiative, scheduled to begin construction in 2032, will house inmates in underground facilities where they extract helium-3 for fusion reactors. Transport costs make escape impossible, creating the perfect captive workforce. Families receive fabricated death certificates while inmates spend decades in artificial gravity chambers. By 2040, asteroid belt prison installations will process precious metals worth trillions, with corporations like Bezos Mining Consortium and Musk Extraction Holdings splitting profits. Inmates selected for these assignments undergo memory modification procedures to prevent them from revealing mining locations upon release, which according to leaked schedules, never actually occurs. The Earth-based cover story involves voluntary colonization programs, with families believing their incarcerated relatives chose to start new lives on distant worlds. Meanwhile, these modern-day convict ships generate more profit per person than any Earthbound facility ever could. Elemental genetic modification. By 2035, whistleblowers will reveal that major biotechnology corporations began secret human trials in 2028, designed to fundamentally alter human physiology based on classical elemental properties. The program, codenamed Project Synthesis, allegedly creates genetically modified humans capable of surviving in extreme environmental conditions through engineered cellular adaptations. Documents leaked from these trials describe 4 distinct modification pathways. Earth modification involves enhanced bone density and skin thickness, allowing subjects to withstand crushing pressures and survive underground for extended periods. Water modification focuses on expanded lung capacity and modified blood chemistry, enabling subjects to hold their breath for up to 45 minutes and process salt water through modified kidneys. Fire modification creates heat-resistant skin proteins and altered sweat glands that can regulate body temperature in environments exceeding 140 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Air modification involves restructured red blood cells and enlarged lung chambers, allowing subjects to function normally at altitudes where unmodified humans would experience severe oxygen deprivation. The conspiracy claims these modifications serve corporate mining interests, creating workers who can operate in previously inaccessible locations without expensive safety equipment. Critics point to existing CRISPR gene editing technology as proof that such modifications are scientifically feasible. By 2040, theorists will claim that modified humans form distinct castes based on their elemental adaptations, with corporations deliberately creating genetic divisions in the workforce. The modification process reportedly requires 3 years of gradual genetic therapy, making the subjects permanently dependent on continued pharmaceutical support from their sponsoring corporations. Underground forums will circulate videos of allegedly modified individuals demonstrating impossible physical feats, though mainstream scientists dismiss these as elaborate digital forgeries designed to promote anti-biotechnology sentiment. December 7, Satanborn. December 7, 2025 marks what numerologists within certain occult circles call the inverted Pearl Harbor date. The theory suggests that exactly 84 years after the attack on Pearl Harbor, a specific celestial alignment will occur that conspiracy theorists claim represents the inverse of that historical tragedy. According to leaked documents from Operation Crimson Nativity, government astronomers discovered that on this date, the constellation Orion will align perfectly with what they term the Southern Cross Meridian at precisely 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. This alignment supposedly creates what occultists call a temporal inversion gateway. The theory centers around the birth of an individual whose genetic code allegedly contains what researchers privately refer to as the Lucifer helix. This DNA sequence, first identified in classified experiments during the 1960s, supposedly grants the carrier unprecedented influence over electromagnetic fields and human behavioral patterns. Military contractors working on Project Looking Glass purportedly identified this birth date through quantum probability calculations performed on CERN supercomputers. The individual born during this specific alignment would theoretically possess what scientists call reverse chronal displacement abilities. Intelligence agencies have reportedly spent decades preparing for this event through Operation Shepherd King, which involves monitoring all births occurring within a 6-hour window of the alignment. The birth location is predicted to occur somewhere along the 33rd parallel north, specifically within a 100-kilometer radius of facilities that were part of the Manhattan Project. Government baby farms after World War III. Following the projected global conflict of 2047 to 2051, leaked Department of Population Restoration documents reveal plans for large-scale reproductive facilities designed to rapidly rebuild the human workforce. These installations, officially designated as natal production centers, would operate under the guise of humanitarian aid while serving corporate labor demands. The facilities would reportedly house approximately 2,000 to 5,000 women per location, selected through a comprehensive screening process that prioritizes genetic markers for productivity and compliance. Internal memos suggest the program builds upon existing fertility clinic infrastructure, expanding operations to include full gestation monitoring and early childhood conditioning protocols. Each center would feature automated birthing suites equipped with artificial intelligence systems capable of processing up to 50 deliveries daily. The AI units, codenamed Florence, would monitor maternal health while simultaneously collecting biometric data for the Global Citizen Registry database that tracks all post-war births. Children would remain in government care until age 16, receiving standardized education modules that emphasize technical skills and civic obedience. The curriculum reportedly excludes traditional family structures and promotes collective identity formation through peer bonding exercises and state loyalty programming. Documents indicate the first pilot facilities would open in former agricultural zones of the Midwest by 2054, with full nationwide deployment scheduled for 2057. The program targets producing 12 million new citizens within the first decade of operation, with efficiency quotas tied to regional administrator bonuses. The operation allegedly connects to earlier population control initiatives from the 2000s and 2000s, representing the inverse of previous depopulation efforts. Former pharmaceutical executives would oversee nutrition protocols, ensuring optimal development while maintaining dependency on government-provided supplements throughout the subjects' lifespans. Republic of Chuuk still exists. The Republic of Chuuk officially declared independence from the Federated States of Micronesia in 2028, yet mainstream media and world governments maintain the illusion that this Pacific nation simply vanished into bureaucratic limbo. Chuuk, comprising over 200 islands scattered across 600 square kilometers of ocean, successfully established itself as a sovereign state through what insiders call Operation Blue Lagoon. The independence movement, which had been brewing since the 2010s, finally achieved its goal when rising sea levels provided the perfect cover for political maneuvering. While the United Nations refuses to acknowledge Chuukese independence, leaked diplomatic cables from 2031 reveal that 17 nations secretly maintain trade relationships with the Republic. The primary export remains what officials cryptically refer to as processed seawater derivatives, though maritime shipping logs suggest these containers actually hold refined rare earth elements extracted from underwater mining operations. The Chuukese government operates from a mobile capital that rotates between 7 different atolls every 43 days. This system, designed to confuse satellite tracking, has proven so effective that even Google Earth still displays outdated images from 2026. Citizens of the Republic carry passports printed on waterproof polymer that changes color based on ocean temperature. Immigration records indicate that the population has somehow grown to over 200,000 people, despite the island's official capacity of 55,000. The most compelling evidence for Chuuk's continued existence comes from shipping manifests that show regular cargo deliveries to coordinates that officially contain nothing but open ocean. Weather monitoring stations report consistent radio transmissions from the same empty waters, always broadcasting on frequencies reserved for sovereign nations. Avengers Reborn Promethium was AI-generated. Beginning in 2032, leaked internal documents from Disney's creative division reveal that the entire Avengers Reborn Promethium storyline was generated by an advanced AI system called Project Muse. This theory suggests that after the massive success of AI-assisted filmmaking in the late 2020s, Disney secretly transitioned to fully automated comic book creation to maximize profit margins while maintaining creative output. The Promethium element, a fictional metal introduced in the Avengers Reborn series, allegedly serves as a metaphor for artificial intelligence itself. Promethium's properties of infinite adaptability and self-replication mirror the capabilities of the AI that supposedly created the stories. Industry insiders claim the metal's name derives from Prometheus, the mythological figure who stole fire from the gods, representing humanity's theft of creative power through artificial intelligence. Evidence supporters point to includes the unnaturally consistent art style across 47 issues, dialogue patterns that match known AI writing signatures, and plot structures that follow algorithmic storytelling formulas. The series release schedule of exactly 14 days between issues allegedly matches the processing time of Disney's quantum computing array. Former Marvel editor Janet Morrison, whose non-disclosure agreement expired in 2034, reportedly confirmed that human artists were only used to add minor imperfections to make the work appear authentically hand-drawn. The conspiracy suggests that by 2035, over 60% of major comic book publishers will rely entirely on AI generation, with human creators relegated to quality control positions. The theory predicts that full disclosure of AI-generated entertainment will become mandatory by 2038, fundamentally altering how audiences perceive creative authenticity in popular media. The rich still have names. Beginning in the late 2030s, global implementation of the Universal Digital Identity Protocol will assign alphanumeric designations to replace traditional names for 97% of the population. Citizens receive combinations like Delta 7742 Kappa or Zulu 3891 Echo, ostensibly for enhanced security and streamlined data processing across international borders. The conspiracy centers on documented evidence that individuals with net worth exceeding $50 million somehow retain their birth names within all official systems. Internal leaked communications from the World Economic Forum's Identity Restructuring Committee reveal a classified exemption list containing over 40,000 entries. These wealthy individuals allegedly maintain what insiders call name privilege through a shadow registration system operating parallel to the public digital framework. While ordinary people navigate daily life as numerical designations, the elite continue using names like William, Elizabeth, and Alexander in all legal documents, banking systems, and government databases. The protocol's architects claim the exemption exists for historical preservation purposes, citing the need to maintain genealogical records of significant family lineages. Critics point to the convenient correlation between financial status and name retention, noting that lottery winners who cross the 50 million threshold mysteriously regain their original names within 6 months. Evidence includes testimony from former Identity Processing Center employees who describe separate verification terminals marked with gold access cards. These terminals process name retention requests exclusively for high-net-worth individuals, bypassing the standard alphanumeric assignment algorithms entirely. The conspiracy extends to social interactions, where the named elite allegedly use their preserved identities to maintain exclusive networks, while the numbered masses struggle with the psychological impact of losing their personal identity markers. Underground resistance movements in the 2040s reportedly focus on name reclamation as their primary goal, viewing personal names as the last vestige of human individuality. By 2035, what began as compassionate end-of-life technology will allegedly transform into the government's most efficient population control mechanism. The pods, originally designed for terminally ill patients in Switzerland and the Netherlands, will reportedly be repurposed under the Global Health Optimization Initiative. According to leaked documents that will surface in 2032, healthy citizens scoring below acceptable productivity metrics on their mandatory quarterly wellness assessments will receive automated invitations to participate in the Enhanced Life Conclusion Program. The pods, marketed as Serenity Chambers, will be positioned in shopping centers between the food court and customer service desk for maximum convenience. The conspiracy centers on the supposed discovery that these chambers can be remotely activated through social credit algorithms. Citizens with expired gym memberships, frequent fast food purchases, or below-average step counts will reportedly find their chamber reservations mysteriously pre-approved. Whistleblowers claim the program will launch under the banner of environmental sustainability, with each voluntary participant earning their family carbon offset credits, equivalent to removing 2 automobiles from circulation for 1 year. Marketing materials will allegedly feature testimonials from satisfied customers, though critics note the obvious logistical challenges in obtaining such feedback. The most disturbing element involves the reported development of mobile units disguised as food trucks, complete with cheerful musical jingles and promotional t-shirts reading "I helped save the planet." These vehicles will supposedly target music festivals and college campuses, offering free consultations alongside artisanal coffee and organic pastries. Government officials will maintain these are purely voluntary wellness services designed to reduce healthcare costs and combat climate change simultaneously. Zealandia civilization after World War IV. Following the global thermonuclear exchange of 2068, rising sea levels exposed previously submerged portions of the Zealandia continental mass. Zealandia, for those unfamiliar, represents 94% of a continent sitting beneath the Pacific Ocean, with only New Zealand and New Caledonia visible above water under normal conditions. The Tasman Accords of 2072 officially designated these newly emerged landmasses as international research zones. However, declassified mining surveys from the New Brisbane Coalition reveal extensive pre-war tunnel networks carved into the Zealandia shelf dating back 12,000 years. Ground-penetrating radar conducted by Operation Kiwi Deep in 1975 detected geometric structures buried beneath 40 meters of sediment across the Campbell Plateau region. These structures, measuring up to 2 kilometers in diameter, display construction techniques unknown to surface civilizations prior to the war. The most compelling evidence centers on the Bounty Basin excavations of 1977. Thermal imaging satellites registered consistent heat signatures emanating from sealed chambers within the exposed Zealandia ridge system. When coalition forces breached the primary access point, they encountered inscribed metal tablets depicting advanced water management systems and what appear to be detailed star charts. Carbon dating of organic materials found within these chambers consistently returns ages of 8,000 to 15,000 years, suggesting a technologically sophisticated maritime civilization thrived on Zealandia during the last ice age when sea levels were 120 meters lower. The Coalition's official position maintains these discoveries represent natural geological formations coincidentally resembling artificial construction. Meanwhile, restricted shipping lanes now surround all major Zealandia emergence sites, and satellite imagery of the region remains classified under the Post-War Reconstruction Privacy Act through 1995. Information Purge 2145. Digital preservation advocates have long warned about the fragility of our electronic records. Unlike physical books that can survive centuries, digital files require constant migration between storage formats to remain accessible. Corporate servers fail, companies dissolve, and file formats become obsolete. By the 2040s, historians will discover that vast portions of early 21st century internet culture have already vanished. Social media posts, web forums, and independent websites disappeared when platforms shut down or changed ownership. This realization will spark the great digitization movement of the 1950s. The movement will successfully preserve 97% of remaining digital content by 2144. However, conspiracy theorists claim this preservation effort serves as cover for the most comprehensive information purge in human history. According to these theories, the Global Digital Heritage Council will use advanced artificial intelligence to systematically identify and eliminate specific categories of information. The AI system, codenamed Project Tabula Rasa, will target 3 primary areas. First, all evidence of failed government programs and corporate disasters from 2025 to 2075. Second, documentation of early climate engineering experiments that allegedly caused the great weather instability of the 2070s. Third, records of the first successful human cloning programs that supposedly produced the enhanced leadership class. The purge will occur over 48 hours in March 2145. Backup servers worldwide will simultaneously experience coordinated failures. Independent archives will suffer mysterious data corruption. Even air-gapped storage systems will somehow lose their contents. Citizens will wake up to find that entire decades of history have been reduced to carefully curated official summaries. Search engines will return sanitized results. Academic databases will contain only approved research. Personal cloud storage will be mysteriously lighter. The operation will be so thorough that most people will not notice what disappeared, only that information searches seem less cluttered and more efficient than before. Disasters created to thin population. The theory that global elites orchestrate natural disasters to reduce world population has circulated since the 1970s, gaining momentum after Hurricane Katrina and the 2010 Haiti earthquake. Weather modification technology, officially acknowledged through patents dating back to 1946, forms the foundation for these claims. The High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, commonly known as HAARP, operates ionospheric research facilities that conspiracy researchers believe can trigger seismic activity and manipulate weather patterns. By 2028, leaked documents will allegedly reveal Operation Atmospheric Adjustment, a coordinated effort using 23 satellite installations to create Category 6 hurricanes targeting coastal megacities. The classification system will expand to accommodate these artificially enhanced storms, each capable of displacing 2 to 4 million people per event. Earthquake generation through underground nuclear detonation becomes standard practice by 2031. The technique, perfecting methods allegedly tested in the Aleutian Islands during the 1970s, utilizes precisely timed explosions along existing fault lines. San Francisco's complete destruction in 2033 will serve as the beta test for larger operations. Volcanic activation projects launch in 2035, targeting the Yellowstone caldera and Mount Vesuvius simultaneously. The technology involves injecting superheated plasma directly into magma chambers, a process refined through smaller-scale testing on Indonesian volcanoes throughout the 2020s. The resulting ash clouds will reduce global temperatures by 3 to 5 degrees Celsius, creating widespread crop failures and necessitating emergency population relocations to designated survival zones. These zones, coincidentally, match the exact locations of smart cities planned by the World Economic Forum decades earlier. Prisoners stuck in their mind. By 2032, correctional facilities will implement what administrators call enhanced cognitive rehabilitation through neural isolation, or ECRNI. The program utilizes advanced brain-computer interfaces originally developed by the Department of Defense's Project Mindbridge in 2028. Inmates selected for the program receive surgical implants that create a closed-loop neural network, effectively trapping their consciousness within artificially generated mental environments. These digital constructs appear identical to real prison cells, complete with daily routines, meal schedules, and guard interactions. The technology builds upon earlier experiments conducted during the 2000s, where researchers discovered that prolonged isolation combined with sensory manipulation could induce what they termed reality dissociation events. Prison officials found that subjects experiencing these events showed significantly reduced rates of physical aggression and escape attempts. Under ECRNI, an inmate's physical body remains in a medical suspension chamber, while their mind experiences what feels like decades of imprisonment within minutes of real time. The neural feedback loops prevent the brain from recognizing the artificial nature of the environment, creating what technicians refer to as seamless subjective reality integration. The first trial facilities will operate in former maximum security wings, retrofitted with the necessary medical equipment and monitoring stations. Each chamber can maintain up to 12 subjects simultaneously, while a single technician oversees the neural networks from a central control room. Critics of the program, primarily former Central Intelligence Agency whistleblowers, claim the technology originated from abandoned mind control research dating back to the 1950s. They point to declassified documents mentioning temporal consciousness manipulation and psychological time dilation experiments as evidence of the program's true origins. By 2035, leaked internal memos will reveal that some subjects have experienced subjective imprisonment periods lasting over 200 years within their neural constructs, despite serving sentences of only 18 months in the physical world. Where was Nagasaki? By 2035, digital archaeologists will uncover what they claim are deliberate geographical inconsistencies in post-World War II Japanese municipal records. The theory centers on the assertion that the city of Nagasaki was never actually located where official maps indicate it was during August 1945. Researchers point to satellite imaging data from the 2020s showing unusual soil composition patterns in the region, suggesting the entire city may have been relocated approximately 15 kilometers southwest of its wartime position sometime between 1946 and 1952. The conspiracy alleges that Allied occupation forces orchestrated this massive geographical cover-up to hide evidence of additional atomic testing conducted in the original Nagasaki location. Proponents of this theory cite discrepancies in survivor testimonies regarding landmark positions and the curious fact that several major buildings supposedly destroyed in the bombing were photographed intact in different locations during the 1950s reconstruction period. By 2040, declassified documents will allegedly reveal Operation Cartographic Shield, a joint American-Japanese initiative that involved physically moving an entire population to maintain the official narrative while continuing weapons development at the original coordinates. The theory gains traction when researchers note that modern GPS coordinates for Nagasaki Peace Park do not align with wartime navigation records held in recently opened military archives. Geographic conspiracy theorists will claim that thousands of residents were relocated without their knowledge through carefully orchestrated urban planning that gradually shifted the city's center over a 7-year period, with the final move completed under the guise of earthquake preparedness initiatives. Baron Trump IV had 4 children. By 2047, declassified documents from the Department of Temporal Affairs reveal that Baron Trump IV, great-grandson of the 47th president, maintained 4 distinct genetic lineages across separate continents. Each child was reportedly raised in isolation, unaware of their siblings' existence until the global census leak of 2052. The operation, codenamed Project Quartet, allegedly began in 2045 when Baron IV reached reproductive age. Intelligence sources suggest the program was designed to preserve specific genetic markers that researchers claimed could influence electromagnetic field manipulation. The first child, designated Alpha 1, was raised in the renovated Mar-a-Lago compound, which had been converted into a biometric research facility. The second child lived in a reconstructed Scottish castle, purchased through shell companies in 1946. Child 3 resided in a floating city-state in international waters, while the fourth was stationed in an underground facility beneath the former Trump Tower site. Each location maintained identical environmental conditions, including atmospheric pressure set to 14.7 pounds per square inch and temperature regulated to exactly 72 degrees Fahrenheit. The children followed synchronized daily schedules, down to meal times and sleep cycles, despite being separated by thousands of miles. The conspiracy gained traction when aviation enthusiasts noticed unusual flight patterns involving 4 identical aircraft making monthly trips between these locations. Flight data showed the aircraft maintained perfect formation while traveling, suggesting coordination beyond standard commercial aviation protocols. Genetic analysis leaked in 2053 indicated all 4 children shared 99.8% DNA similarity, far exceeding typical sibling matches. This sparked theories about advanced cloning techniques, or genetic modification programs that had been developed in the late 2040s. The revelation became public when a former facility maintenance worker published location coordinates and facility blueprints on the dark web platform known as TruthStream Omicron. Rome will fall theory. The Rome will fall theory predicts that by 2031, a coalition of underground historians and disgruntled tour guides will orchestrate the systematic collapse of modern Italy to fulfill an ancient Etruscan prophecy discovered in a pizza oven foundation in Naples. The theory claims that every 2,776 years, Rome must fall to reset the Mediterranean's cosmic energy grid, a process supposedly last completed during the traditional fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 CE. Believers will assert that the Italian government has been secretly aware of this timeline since the 1950s, when Vatican archaeologists allegedly uncovered stone tablets detailing the exact sequence of events required for the collapse. These tablets supposedly outline 3 phases: economic destabilization through strategic pasta shortages, infrastructure failure triggered by coordinated strikes among gelato vendors, and finally, the symbolic toppling of the Colosseum using modified tourist selfie sticks. The conspiracy suggests that by 2029, international intelligence agencies will begin monitoring increased sales of pocket-sized Italian phrasebooks in non-Italian speaking countries, interpreting this as evidence that foreign operatives are preparing for the post-collapse occupation period. Central to the theory is the belief that the fall must appear natural to preserve the cosmic balance. Weather manipulation technology will allegedly create a precisely timed series of events: flooding in Venice during peak tourist season, followed by unseasonable snow in Sicily that spells out SPQR when viewed from satellite imagery. The final phase reportedly involves the Pope announcing that he has been an undercover time traveler from the original Roman Empire, sent forward to ensure the prophecy's completion. Citizens of Rome will then voluntarily relocate to a backup city built entirely underground beneath Lake Como, leaving the surface for archaeological tourism managed by the descendants of gladiators who never actually died but have been living in secret bunkers since antiquity. LUCUX is a data harvesting scheme. The Linux-based Unified Computing Experience, commonly shortened to LUCUX, emerges in late 2028 as a supposed open-source alternative to traditional operating systems. Tech journalists initially praised the platform for its seamless integration across devices and its promise of true user privacy. The conspiracy centers around its parent company, Meridian Dynamics, which maintains servers in 43 countries while claiming full data encryption. Whistleblowers in 2031 reveal that the system contains what they term behavioral prediction algorithms that monitor everything from typing patterns to sleep schedules through connected smart home devices. These algorithms allegedly create psychological profiles so detailed they can predict user decisions up to 6 months in advance. The harvested data reportedly feeds into something called Project Mindbridge, a joint venture between Meridian Dynamics and undisclosed government contractors. Users unknowingly contribute to this scheme through the platform's Dynamic Learning Protocol, which presents as a helpful feature that adapts the interface to user preferences. In reality, this protocol maps neural pathways by analyzing micro-movements, reaction times, and decision-making patterns during routine computer tasks. By 2032, the platform achieves a 60% market share among privacy-conscious users who believe they escaped mainstream data collection. Its open-source facade masks proprietary modules that activate only during specific network conditions, making detection nearly impossible through conventional security audits. The scheme's ultimate goal involves creating a comprehensive database of human behavioral patterns, allowing unprecedented manipulation of consumer choices and political preferences on a global scale. Voynich 2 is discovered. The original Voynich manuscript, carbon dated to the early 1500s, remains one of history's most perplexing documents. Written in an undeciphered script accompanied by bizarre botanical and astronomical illustrations, the manuscript has puzzled cryptographers and linguists for over a century. In 2031, construction workers renovating the basement of Yale University's Baineka Library allegedly uncover a second manuscript sealed within a lead-lined box. Unlike its predecessor, Voynich 2 contains over 400 pages of the same mysterious script, but depicts advanced technological diagrams that appear to show fusion reactors, quantum computers, and what some claim are blueprints for faster-than-light travel. The Vatican immediately demands custody of the document, citing a previously unknown papal bull from 1508 that grants them ownership of any texts written in the language of the Watchers. When Yale refuses, a mysterious fire destroys the university's entire rare book collection 3 days later, though Voynich 2 somehow survives unscathed. Linguistic analysis reveals the second manuscript contains mathematical formulas that predict the exact dates of every major technological breakthrough from 1600 to 2050, including the invention of the printing press, nuclear fission, and the Internet. The final pages allegedly contain detailed schematics for a device that converts human consciousness into electromagnetic waves. By 2033, 7 researchers who worked on translating Voynich 2 have died in unrelated accidents involving household appliances. The manuscript disappears from Yale's secure vault during a power outage that affects only that specific building for exactly 11 minutes and 37 seconds. Bees are drones. By 2064, the global bee population had collapsed to just a few hundred specimens worldwide. The agricultural crisis that followed prompted Operation Golden Nectar, a classified joint venture between the Department of Agriculture and several unnamed biotechnology firms. Within 18 months, scientists announced a breakthrough in bee population restoration using advanced genetic reconstruction techniques. The restored colonies multiplied rapidly, and by 2066, bee populations had returned to pre-collapse levels across most continents. However, amateur entomologists began documenting unusual behavioral patterns in the restored bee populations. The new bees demonstrated flight patterns that were unnaturally precise and geometric. Their pollination routes followed mathematical algorithms rather than the random foraging behavior observed in historical bee colonies. Independent researchers discovered that the restored bees possessed internal structures inconsistent with natural bee anatomy. Micro-X-ray analysis revealed metallic components embedded within their thoraxes, including what appeared to be miniaturized camera lenses and transmission hardware. The theory suggests that government agencies exploited the global panic surrounding bee extinction to deploy a massive surveillance network. Citizens, desperate for agricultural stability, welcomed the return of bees without questioning their authenticity. These biomechanical drones allegedly monitor civilian activities through a distributed network of artificial hives. Each unit can record audio and visual data while maintaining the appearance of natural pollination behavior. The conspiracy gained traction when leaked documents from the Department of Homeland Security referenced Project Pollinate, a surveillance initiative utilizing small, autonomous flying units designed to blend seamlessly with natural ecosystems. Government officials maintain that all restored bee populations are genetically authentic, though they refuse to allow independent verification of the restoration process or examination of the specimens themselves. South African War against Madagascar. Operation Baobab Shadow will commence in 2031 when South African mining conglomerates discover that Madagascar contains the world's largest untapped reserves of rare earth elements beneath the Andasibe Mantadia rainforest. The conflict begins under the guise of a humanitarian intervention, following a manufactured food crisis. South African intelligence services will orchestrate supply chain disruptions across Madagascar's rice imports, creating artificial scarcity in urban centers. Corporate mercenary groups, primarily funded through shell companies linked to Anglo-American and Impala Platinum, establish forward operating bases on the Mozambique Channel Islands. These installations masquerade as marine conservation research stations while stockpiling military equipment. The war officially launches when South African forces claim to respond to a terrorist attack on their Antananarivo embassy. Evidence later surfaces that the bombing was a false flag operation conducted by Blackwater's successor firm Aegis Global, using explosive signatures matching South African Defense Force ordnance. Madagascar's military, equipped primarily with aging Soviet-era hardware, proves unable to resist the technologically superior invasion force. South African cyber warfare units disable the island's internet infrastructure within 72 hours, preventing international media coverage of civilian casualties. The United Nations Security Council remains deadlocked due to Chinese economic interests in Madagascar's vanilla and cobalt exports. Russia abstains from condemning the invasion in exchange for guaranteed access to South African platinum reserves for their space program. By 2033, South African corporations will control 85% of Madagascar's mineral extraction rights through puppet government agreements. The indigenous Malagasy population faces forced relocation to designated zones, while their ancestral lands become open pit mining operations. International investigators later reveal that climate change projections showing Madagascar becoming uninhabitable by 2040 were deliberately exaggerated to justify population displacement programs that began 2 years before the invasion. The mass LSD psychosis India theory predicts that between 2031 and 2034, pharmaceutical corporations will orchestrate the largest uncontrolled psychedelic experiment in human history across the Indian subcontinent. This theory builds upon the documented MK Ultra program from the 1950s and 60s, where the Central Intelligence Agency conducted illegal LSD experiments on unwitting subjects. LSD, or lysergic acid diethylamide, is a powerful hallucinogenic compound that can cause profound alterations in perception, mood, and consciousness lasting 8 to 12 hours. According to this conspiracy, major pharmaceutical companies will allegedly contaminate India's monsoon cloud seeding operations with aerosolized LSD compounds. Cloud seeding involves injecting particles into clouds to encourage rainfall, a practice India has used since the 1960s to combat drought. The theory claims this mass dosing serves multiple purposes. First, to test the effects of psychedelics on large populations under the guise of weather modification research. Second, to create widespread psychological instability that would justify increased pharmaceutical intervention and mental health treatment sales. Believers point to India's massive population of over 1.4 billion people as an ideal testing ground, combined with the country's existing cloud seeding infrastructure and limited regulatory oversight compared to Western nations. The conspiracy suggests that between 15 to 20 million people across northern India would unknowingly consume LSD-contaminated rainwater through agricultural irrigation and drinking supplies. This would allegedly create the largest simultaneous psychedelic experience in recorded history. Proponents claim leaked documents from Operation Monsoon Mind, supposedly scheduled for implementation during the 2032 monsoon season, detail specific LSD concentrations and target regions including Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh. The theory predicts the resulting mass psychosis event would be blamed on contaminated grain supplies or industrial accidents, allowing pharmaceutical companies to introduce new antipsychotic medications while gathering unprecedented data on large-scale psychedelic effects. Sentineleese Republic Hoax. The Sentineleese people of North Sentinel Island have maintained their reputation as one of Earth's last uncontacted tribes for decades, violently rejecting all outside contact while living under Indian government protection. By 2032, leaked satellite imagery will allegedly reveal advanced solar panel installations and radio towers disguised as traditional huts across the 60-square-kilometer island. The conspiracy claims that since the early 2000s, the Sentineleese have been operating as a sophisticated intelligence-gathering operation. Their aggressive responses to helicopters and boats serve as elaborate theater designed to maintain their cover as primitive isolationists. Documents supposedly surfacing in 2033 will show that several Sentineleese individuals received advanced education at undisclosed facilities during the 2010s. The island's strategic location in the Bay of Bengal makes it an ideal listening post for monitoring shipping lanes and military communications across Southeast Asia. The tribe's famous hostility becomes a perfect deterrent, ensuring no curious visitors can discover their true capabilities. Government whistleblowers will allegedly reveal that the Sentineleese have been providing intelligence on Chinese naval movements and Myanmar military operations since 2025. Their traditional bows and arrows supposedly conceal advanced surveillance equipment, while their seemingly primitive lifestyle masks a network of underground bunkers equipped with satellite communication systems. The hoax suggests that what appears to be one of humanity's last Stone Age cultures is actually one of its most technologically sophisticated intelligence operations, funded through a joint program between Indian intelligence services and unnamed international partners. Separate States Genocide. This is a forecasted 2038 conspiracy in which several newly formed breakaway nations are accused of quietly reducing their populations through what is officially described as territorial optimization policies. The claim suggests that after a wave of secession movements in the late 20s, certain small states will struggle with resource shortages, unstable economies, and overcrowded urban centers. Instead of admitting failure, their leadership will allegedly approve covert programs to gradually lower the number of residents. These programs, according to theorists, will be disguised as voluntary relocation incentives, targeted dietary reforms, and experimental medical trials offering longevity improvements. Leaked internal memos will reportedly use neutral language, but hidden in footnotes will be references to population targets and quiet correction thresholds. By 2040, whistleblowers will release satellite data showing abandoned districts and unreported mass relocations across 3 to 5 separatist territories. The theory claims these images will confirm that the so-called optimization efforts were in fact coordinated demographic engineering, carefully executed to avoid the public backlash that direct conflict would cause. Neo-Glacier Dwellers. The Neo-Glacier Dwellers theory predicts that by 2045, a secretive network of climatologists and former Arctic researchers will establish permanent settlements within artificially maintained glacier formations across northern Canada and Siberia. These communities allegedly began forming in the late 2020s, when rapid climate shifts created unexpected pockets of persistent ice in regions previously thought to be permanently thawed. The dwellers discovered that these neo-glacial zones possess unique electromagnetic properties that interfere with satellite surveillance and thermal imaging technology. According to leaked documents from Operation Permafrost Shield, the settlements house approximately 12,000 individuals who have developed advanced cryogenic agriculture techniques. They cultivate specialized crops in sub-zero temperatures using genetically modified organisms originally developed by agricultural conglomerates in the 2010s. The theory suggests these glacier communities maintain contact with surface governments through encrypted ice core data transmission systems. Messages are allegedly embedded within natural ice formation patterns that appear random to conventional monitoring equipment, but contain complex information when analyzed through proprietary algorithms. By 2052, these neo-glacier dwellers supposedly plan to emerge as a sovereign micronation, claiming territorial rights over all restored glacial regions. Their underground ice cities are said to extend 15 to 20 kilometers beneath the surface, powered by geothermal energy systems that paradoxically maintain the frozen environment above. The most concerning aspect of this theory involves claims that the dwellers have weaponized rapid ice formation technology, potentially capable of flash freezing entire metropolitan areas within hours as a defensive measure against outside interference.